welcome to the Mani and Fariha show. As all of you know, I am Fariha, and this isn't Mani today. We actually have a guest co-host, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to Gisela.
Thank you.
It is, as I said, a pleasure to have her here, and you will shortly find out why. She has a wealth of knowledge and spirituality, and just, you can see, just a glowing, luminous presence. Welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for accepting. Thank you for accepting my invitation. So Gisela and I have collaborated on a few projects, and the dynamics between us, we just feel that we work so well together. Definitely soul sisters.
For sure.
Yes. So Gisela has actually participated in various Pakistani communities and events, as well as the Miss Pakistan contest, right?
Yep. One of them was back in 2013. I did Mr. and Mrs. Pakistan, and it was such an incredible experience. So definitely humbled to be here, back in the Pakistani community again. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're most welcome. Always welcome. And tell us a little bit about that that pageant, or was it a competition? What was it?
Yes, it was a pageant, and I myself am not Pakistani, but they did give the opportunity to those cultures that didn't have pageants at the time. And basically...
See what I mean about the inclusion factor?
Definitely. And we became like a family, all of us. It was about 8 females and 8 males. Such an incredible experience. It got me to get out of my comfort zone, really. Really was not in the position to public speak at all, but really just wanted to, step out and make a difference one of these days.
And you definitely have accomplished both. You have stepped out, and every day, I have to say, Gisela is constantly making a difference in so many people's lives. So thank you for being you.
Thank you so much.
As we go on to be welcoming our guest of the day, there's a quote, and you guys know how I am with my quotes, and it's about the synchronicity of events, because I feel that everyone that we come across in our lives, even whether it be on the streets, you just exchange a smile, and it truly is a resonance between us. And we often think, oh, it's a coincidence, an accident, however we may term it. But I've said this to you guys before, that I do not believe in coincidences or accidents. I really, really do believe in divine planning and synchronicity. So this is a quote which I've selected for today. Whether we name divine presence, synchronicity, serendipity, or graced moments, isn't that great? To consider it a graced moment?
Definitely.
Well, regardless of how we term it, it matters very little. What matters is the reality that our hearts have been understood. Isn't that the best feeling in the world, when we have that mutual connection with someone and have achieved that intimacy and to be felt, understood? There's actually a proverb, and I think it's a native Indian one, where a child was asking his father that why is it that people shout? You can be close, and when you're not feeling understood, you have a tendency to shout. And he said it's because their hearts aren't close to each other.
Wow.
So that's all it takes, that closening of the hearts. And to carry on with my quote, yes. So whatever we call it matters very little. What matters is that our hearts have been understood. And nothing is as real as a healthy dose of magic, which restores our spirits. Again, we can name things whatever we want, whether it's magic or love or energy or frequency or power. But I do love the word magic, because it seems like an alchemy, right? We can take the basest of materials or chemicals like lead, and being an alchemist, change them to gold. So whatever experience we may be going through, we can change it all into gold with the magic that is inherently in each and every one of us. So that is it of my spiel and my contribution of quotes. We will be back very shortly with our guest. His name is Andrew. And actually, before I let you guys go, I'd like to speak a little bit of how I met him. I've spoken previously about Speaker Slam, which happens at the end of the month every Wednesday in downtown Toronto. And there's a panel of speakers, who probably haven't spoken too much previously, but they're selected for various topics, and like health and spirituality, whether it be defying the odds. There's different topics for every month. And this was a health and fitness one where I had met Andrew. And when he went up to speak, I was just blown away. I often speak about that je ne sais quoi that a person possesses that just captivates you. And you think, wow, what is it? And you just are compelled to go up and say hi or to get to know him. Well, that was definitely my feeling for Andrew. And, he's soft-spoken, such a humble soul. And as I got to know a little bit more about him, I was like, he has to come on the Mani and Fariha show and share himself with people at large. So be patient. We will be back shortly with you and with Andrew. I know that all of you have been anxiously waiting to be introduced to Andrew. So without further ado, we have Andrew here. Welcome.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's our pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be with you too. Talk about synchronicities. I feel your heartfelt energy from that quote. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Okay, really. For us as well, indeed.
An honor, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, because I could go on and on and on, but I will give you the opportunity.
For sure. So we initially met at Speaker Slam, right? So at that place, I was actually talking about fitness, and it was a fitness motivational speech. And I kind of talked about my background as how I grew up in fitness, and I initially got into wrestling at the age of 5.
Oh, wow.
Through just flipping through the TV, and I just landed on some random channel, and it happened to be men in tights with big muscles grappling over each other. And something about that caught my attention, and for the next 13 years, I was really into wrestling. But through that process, I started to understand fitness, and I started to understand health, and how that all came to come together to optimize performance. And at the age of 3, just to add on to that another layer, I was a vegetarian. So I decided
at the age of 3.
Yeah.
I think you shared that in your speech, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I was just munching away, about to eat this big, juicy McDonald's organic hamburger, because they had that back then. And I asked my mom, what's in this thing? And she's like, cow. And I'm like, moo cow?
Moo cow.
And then she's like, moo cow. And I put that burger down, and for the next 13 years, I didn't touch meat. Incredible. So that kind of empathy for animals kind of turned into an empathy for humans and just nature all around. And that vegetarian aspect turned into health as well. And that curiosity for the world in terms of, how can I help the most amount of people possible?
Right.
When I was 5, my mom asked me this huge question. She's like, what do you want to do with your life? And
I'm like, at the age of 5, I know. Quite the question.
Quite the question. And I just replied what a typical 5-year-old would say. I said I wanted to be a doctor or a vet. Most people do. But there was something special about that word to me, that it really felt right when I said that. And so here I am today, graduate of with a doctor of naturopathy degree, about to start training patients. And I'm no longer a wrestler, but I was a fitness model, so it kind of spiraled into something else at that point. So I do keep fitness close to my heart, and I keep health and nature and the world around really close to my heart, and those 3 synchronicities of events really compiled together to form the experiences for which I am here today with you and the amazing co-host as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that immense accomplishment, like to have that doctorate degree, right?
Thank you.
And why is it that you chose to get into the naturalistic aspect as opposed to, conventional medicine?
Right. Great question. So it was conventional medicine for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. Up until I graduated from university.
Yes.
I had a mentor at that point who was coaching me up. When I first met him, my dad called him, what do you call him, like a vitamin specialist.
Okay.
A vitamin specialist, and he worked out at my gym, and so I'm like, Dad, who's that guy? He's really big and looks really healthy. He's like, oh, he's a vitamin specialist. Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't really want to know about vitamins. I'm not going to really talk to him. So I'm like medical school, all the way up until I'm about to graduate from university, from McMaster University.
Wow, you're really smart, aren't you?
What program did you take?
Psychology, neuroscience, and behavior.
Incredible.
And then I minored in a little bit of German. So have that thing, just in case. You never know, right?
You never know.
Leaders of medicine at this point.
Definitely.
So I went to him originally in the gym, and I'm like, "How'd you get so big?" And he started talking. We just had a nice chat, and he became my mentor from that one aspect. And I later went to find out that he was in something called functional medicine, and that's actually something that I'm really involved in today.
What exactly is functional medicine?
So functional medicine is very similar to the proponents of naturopathic medicine. It's more of a standardized way of looking at things from an objective point of view and really getting down to the root cause of why someone's ill. Right?
So not just treating the symptoms,
Yeah.
but getting to the root cause.
Exactly. And not even treating at all.
Really?
We don't treat, because to treat would mean that there's such thing as disease. And functional medicine does not believe in disease.
That's quite the philosophy, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It sounds revelational, but really this was the philosophy that's been around for the past 10, 13,000 years, ever since Hippocrates was around and gave us all those amazing quotes.
Yes.
Like, for example, food is thy medicine, and walking is thy medicine, and all disease starts in the gut. That is the foundation of functional medicine, is all disease starts in the gut. So you go to any functional medicine practitioner, you have autoimmune disease, you have any kind of disorder or illness going on, they're usually going to look at your gut first.
Yeah.
Which is, and so he knew that 10,000, 15,000 years ago. And so this philosophy of not having such a thing as disease has been around for so long, but it's just since the 1930s, and conventional medicine kind of framed these certain ways of looking at things to be able to better treat it.
So is that what led you to looking at naturopathic medicine?
Well,
Functional medicine?
So going back, I was just about to graduate my functional medicine practitioner. He being practicing for a while, said, "Andrew, that's not where you want to go." He's like, "Listen, this is what the reality of medical school is, and this is the reality of who you are as a person. You won't be able to spend an hour with your patients. You'll spend 7 minutes. You won't be able to hear their story. You won't be able to see them for a prolonged period of time and really take care of them the way you want them to. You want to, right? You're more," and I walk the talk, and I'm very proud of that. I think before you can share, you have to be.
Definitely.
Right? And so I wanted to be able to share that kind of part of me, the nutrition, the exercise, and all that stuff. So I took his word for it, and I didn't know what to do. As soon as I graduated, I had no second plan. So I started my own health and fitness company, Primal Way. And I realized that through nutrition and personal training, it wasn't enough. I was getting good results, but I wanted more. I wanted more tools in my arsenal. So I heard about naturopathic medicine. As soon as I heard about it, I applied and I went into it. And 4 years later, I graduated from it. It was an incredible experience. But along the way, I met another mentor, Sachin Patel. And he was actually at that event with us.
And actually, he was on our show previously as well.
Oh, amazing. Incredible guy.
Very much so.
I just enrolled in his mentorship program, actually. So I'm really excited to learn from him, one of the best in functional medicine.
Absolutely, because I know how busy he is, traveling around the world, and everything that he offers in this institute is phenomenal. Such a big-hearted, generous man, for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely passionate about changing the world, and he's doing a great job of it.
Yes, he is, very much so. You know how they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears? And it seems, we started off talking about synchronicity and serendipity, how, your first mentor that you introduced, he caught you at exactly the right time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I love it. That's why I stand by that quote so passionately. It's like, whenever you're ready, the universe will present something for you.
Absolutely, it will, yes. And I actually have another quote about synchronicity ready.
Perfect.
So with synchronicity, all the resources that we need are made available for us at the precise moment that is appropriate. Did I not just say that? The people who come into our lives are the ones we need at that moment in time. Everything is perfect. We only need to recognize this to tune into the flow. So everything happens for a reason, and every experience is a learning experience. That is for sure. So regardless of what we may be going through, whether it's the most traumatic experience or, gut-wrenching, however we want to frame it, or it could be the most amazing one as well. Why do we always have to think in negative terms? And we think that it's, just for this moment, and it may be short-lived, but not necessarily. It's, everything happens for a reason, the good, bad, the ugly, all of it, the whole spectrum. And once we return, we will be speaking more with Andrew. Welcome back, everyone, to the Mani and Fariha show. Fariha, Gisela, and Andrew. And as we went to break, Gisela was about to share her experience about something. I'm like, hold on. I think all of you want to listen to it too. So Gisela.
So with regards to natural healing, I've really been resonating towards it. And my background's actually in law. I went to school for that. So I've been in transition trying to, I guess, find myself. And naturopathic medicine actually came across my path. And I attempted to get some courses in order to get to that point. But because, I guess, 13 years of not having any science background, it was a little difficult for me to get to that point. So I'm definitely, you know, it's nice to see that there are other people that actually, you know, you have that background. So you're stepping up. And the fact that at such a young age, you said not only did you find that connection towards the animals, but people too. You really absorbed the fact that we're all really connected. And there's more to than just being a doctor and sitting there for 7 minutes, you know. So we really have to get to that root cause and see where this underlying factor is or is coming from.
Exactly. So there you go. I mean, the body knows what to do. If you think about it, right? We came from 2 cells and we divided into trillions.
Yeah.
So,
and we're constantly renewing as well, right? Like 7 years ago, physically, we were all different people because our cells regenerate.
I love how you said 7 years ago, because the longest cell that lives in your body is 7 years. So you hit it right on the nail.
Well, it's because I studied it.
Oh, perfect.
It didn't just come out of there. It wasn't that serendipitous.
Yeah, exactly. And so you know that as soon as you remove the offending obstacle, your body is able to heal again. But the reality is there's so many obstacles that present to us that are bombarding us from every single angle in our modern day. We just got to be a little bit more vigilant than usual to really save ourselves and heal ourselves. Because once we do, we've seen it over and over again, from paraplegics to people with severe autoimmune conditions. We've seen full healing through functional medicine. And you know, it's a shame that science should ever get in the way of someone being able to help another person.
Right.
I worked on the distress lines before I went to medical school.
What exactly do you term the distress lines?
Sure,
Yes.
I should probably give some
Maybe
prelude to
not
that.
everyone knows.
Of course. So it's distress. I worked at the Oakville Distress Center. And what I did there was, when people would call in, they were suicidal, abused, like ready to commit suicide that night on the phone call. And we were trained to be able to bring these people back to safety, take their hand and kind of bring them back and make sure they're okay. And I had no training going into that. But
really?
None.
It sounds as if it would be intense training to be able to address such concerns and issues. And for someone who isn't trained, it may be overwhelming.
Yeah, so going into I should say this, going into the training, I had no training.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So going into the position, I had no idea what to expect.
Yes.
But they did do 6 weeks of 3 hours a night training.
Okay.
Right? So
That makes me feel better.
a little better, right?
Yeah, a little. Yes.
Kind of scary, but even though it's still really scary
For sure.
to be on a phone on your first night, like I was, talking to someone who's going to commit suicide or who's at the risk of doing so.
You probably feel very responsible for their life.
Oh, huge. But at the end of the day, the lesson I took away from it is that you don't need any qualifications to help somebody else. You just need to be able to listen. And connect that heart to heart. And a lot of times, you know, that's the majority. That's why we have an hour session, because it's not what they leave with. It's during the session, the connection they form to be able to trust another person. Yes. That trusting connection is probably 70 to 80% of the work of actual medicine. Definitely. So you don't have to study it for years to be able to be good at it. You know, there's so many different ways. And I know Sachin, our mutual friend, is always posting on different ways that people want to get involved with functional medicine can do so. There's so many roles for anyone out there who wants to get involved in helping and healing.
Perhaps we should check out some of those,
for sure.
those sites.
It definitely resonates with both of us.
Yes, and do a bit more research and see how perhaps we can participate, for sure. So I know that, you know, you've had your own experiences starting from a very young age. What are like 5 accomplishments that you particularly are proud of? And in society, we think of accomplishments and success as predominantly monetary terms, you know, that's the way it goes. But individually, it can mean so much more than that. For a person just to climb a mountain might be the biggest accomplishment, and other people are like, really? But, you know, it really is very individualistic, which is why I frame it in that way, and we'd love to know yours.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I can come up with a 5 right off the bat, but I do have a couple.
Really? I was like, I'm limiting him to 5.
So I guess my first one would be where I was in the naturopathic clinic, and I get these patients' test results this one day, and I showed it to him, and he started to cry.
Wow.
And I put him on a very basic program, and it was nothing special on my part. It was just lifestyle change.
Lifestyle change.
Lifestyle
So what did he
change.
come in with?
So he came in with type 2 diabetes,
Okay.
and he's been struggling with this for his whole life. And not because he doesn't know what to do, because most people do know what to do, but because he's never had the self-confidence to be able to take on the task and become that kind of person who can go through the process needed to be able to be free of that. And so, you know, very, very gradually, every week we worked on his diet, we worked on his lifestyle, we didn't give him any supplements, we worked with his doctors on medication and everything, and 3 months later, I get his lab results back. And by technical terms, on the lab results, it showed that he no longer had the markers present for someone with diabetes.
Profound.
And it was profound, but it was profound because, first of all, he started crying. And it was profound because here's this man who all he needed was a hand to hold to help him go through the process. And for me to be able to be that person for him was such an honor that's definitely something that I'll never forget.
I think one thing that differentiates between conventional and what you're doing as a naturopath is that accountability. You know, they're not going to hold your hand, and sometimes you just need that push. But it's the fact that he took that step to come to you, you know, so that's incredible on his behalf, and it's incredible what you did as well. Definitely.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That's naturopathic medicine. I should clarify, however, that I'm not a naturopath at this point.
Okay.
I haven't written my second board exams.
Okay.
I'm practicing as a functional diagnostic nutrition with a degree of doctor of naturopathy at this point.
Great.
Those are all kind of titles, aren't they? We
Yeah.
know what you do.
For
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have 1 down, 4 to go.
4 to go.
Yes.
I'll definitely give you one more.
Okay.
Here's another one.
He's restricting us.
A little bit of a sneak peek. So
Yes.
when I was 3 years ago, I competed in a fitness competition. It wasn't a pageant, but it was very similar to one, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of that moment because it took a lot of discipline. So a fitness competition is where you go on stage. It's kind of like bodybuilding. However, it's not, you know, as much muscle mass. It's more of a style. It's more of a feeling, a character that you play on stage rather than showing off all these different muscle groups. And so the process going up to that was so challenging, and I had to develop myself into a person with such incredible discipline to go through with it. So it was like 3 sessions of cardio a day. Wow. It was 2 hours of working out a day with half the calories I usually eat. And I mean, I was trained by the best, Mr. Olympia Natural. Ian Wong is a great friend of mine, and he believes in the holistic approach.
Yeah. Sounds like a full-time job, just training.
Oh, it definitely was. And I did it during summer, so it was even that much more restricting. Patio season went out the window. And
those long days and you're inside.
Yeah. I've definitely learned better ways to stay in shape since then.
Okay.
I would never do that or put anyone through that again. But I'm just proud that I was able to go through the process of that determination. And that's definitely led into the willpower that I've created for myself going into my studies later on.
Yeah, you carried that discipline forward.
Yeah, exactly. And so I never think it's the actual accomplishment that is the actual accomplishment. I think it's the process that we should be more proud of that leads up to that thing.
Actually, as you were saying that, Andrew, I was thinking in my own mind that oftentimes we think of the getting there, right? Like the destination, and we forget about the journey. And even in our life, like what is our ultimate destination? It's a grave. So, and we forget about the journey of our life, and that's where we really gain, you know, the experiences and the love and the discipline or the other qualities that we want to cultivate and actualize within ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if we think about the achievements in life, maybe they make up 1% of our whole life, and the journey makes up the other 99%.
Very much so. Another aspect of the actual getting there is, I know it's kind of a out there analogy, but when I think of when I would take public transportation, for example, I'd be waiting at the bus stop and waiting and waiting, and then but the actual journey was so much less, you know, and then I'm there wherever it is that I have to be. But even those contemplative moments of waiting at the bus stop and okay, the anticipation and all of that, like we build so much up in our own minds, and then when you get there, it may not be everything that it's made out to be. But definitely with regards to, you know, taking forward the lessons learned, right, the experiences.
100%. You know, it's funny because everyone kind of, it's just all how you think of things and frame them, right? Like you said, public transportation is all perspective.
Yes.
I turned my car into a university, so I love driving long distances now. Just download a book on Audible, put it on whatever favorite book I'm listening to, listen and drive.
Yes.
And it's just a way for me to learn and escape just for that hour or two.
For that hour or two. It sounds like you had a long commute. Well, anyway, we will be continuing our conversation with Andrew and with Gisela, and hope to see you back soon. Hello everyone, we are back and great to have you back with us. There was one thing which I forgot, especially as someone with, you know, an academic background, and you have to cite everything, and both my colleagues here as well. So the first quote that I said was from Nancy Long, and of course you can Google it, and I'll even post it on our Facebook page if you want to hear that quote again or to keep it. And then the second was by Alex Chua. So the first one was about, you know, that magic, and the second one was about every experience is a learning experience. I know that I always like to collect quotes, and for those of you who love to collect them too, I'm not going to take that out of your way. So back to our conversation. You were sharing with us, Andrew, 2 accomplishments that you are particularly proud about. I'm sure that we can get one more out of you at least, right?
Of course. If you pull and cry hard enough, you may.
Yeah.
So, and you did. Okay. I'll say that. What is another accomplishment that I'm proud of? Actually, one of the biggest ones I was so proud of in this moment in time was getting into naturopathic medical school. That was huge because it was the first time in my life where I felt congruent with what I was about to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a feeling, like to know that you're aligned with your soul's calling and purpose.
Exactly. That's exactly what it felt like. Yeah. Like everything is right and I'm finally able to do what I love.
And it probably felt like everything was coming in place too. Things were working out, even the administrative aspects of it. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Everything was aligning.
Yeah.
You know, they say that I think this is one of Sachin's favorite quotes actually. He says that if everything is aligning, you're going the right way. Yeah. If it's not, and the universe is pushing you back with obstacles, you're not going the right way. It's just trying to tell you to go just nudge you in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very much so. So it is great that you have found your calling and your purpose. And oftentimes, you know, people think that, well, how do I find mine? And even though it may not be in naturopathic medicine, or people may be like, I'm not sure how to find mine. So what tips do you have for, first of all, someone to find their soul purpose and then to actually go, like, follow the path of it?
It's great timing for you to ask me that question. So I just got back from Colombia a week and a half ago, and that's actually why I went.
Yes.
I went to Colombia for 2 months to be able
I was thinking you were gone for a long time, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. And I purposely gave myself that time and space because I knew I would never give it to myself for a long time at least afterwards. And so I think that's just what we need more in life, is to give ourselves space. And it's not something we can logically come up with in terms of what my purpose and passion is. It's not something we can think. It's something that when it hits home, it hits home. But for able to create that space for us, we have to give ourselves permission to just feel and just to not think. You know, I went to Colombia in 2 months. It hit me when I wasn't expecting it, what I needed to do. And so many people where I went is Medellin, and a lot of entrepreneurs from all over the world go there. So I got to meet a lot of incredible souls while I was there. And the common theme came up was that people found who they needed to be and what they wanted to do while they were traveling. It was such a common theme. And these were very successful young people. I'm not talking about 50 and 60-year-olds. I'm talking about 20 and 30-year-olds being so passionate about their calling. There was this one woman who worked for a corporate job, and she was really unhappy. And she just decided to drop everything, quit her job, and travel. And, you know, corporate just wasn't for her. And she felt that, and she honored that. And she just volunteered with this one travel organization who helps poverty and all, and, you know, fight poverty in all these different places. And she felt such a calling with that. A couple years later, she's now the CFO of a large travel organization.
Incredible.
And so the universe will find you when you're ready to let it in. I truly believe that. We just got to create this space and empty our cups. The scariest step,
Jump, you know.
Exactly.
Take that leap of faith. You touched upon something that I would like to expand upon a little bit more, and that's the aspect of, okay, you know what, I know my calling, I know my purpose, but I just don't have the resources for it. How can I leave a corporate job, right? And what you said is that she volunteered. So there are resources out there.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
So how did you get away for like 2 months?
How did I get away?
Yeah, like for 2 months, because, you know, like your source of income, how did you eat? Like, you know, there's all types of questions.
That's a great question. I just graduated from naturopathic medical school, which costs a lot of money.
Exactly.
I was unemployed. So while I was in Colombia, I actually started a good job. I actually did an online consulting for weight loss and fitness. So while I was there, I was able to create people meal plans, nutrition plans, help consult them in how to get their dream bodies and everything like that. So that was always a temporary gig that I had to fall back on because that's where my expertise lied. And so.
And how did you get into that? Or
originally?
Yes.
Oh, that goes back to when I was 5 and I was stuck on the.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So this is something that you just carried forward, and so even going to Colombia, you're like, oh, I can still do this.
Yeah, exactly. And I could have been probably successful in carrying that over after naturopathic medical school and did a whole specialty on that. It just didn't feel right. And so that's why I went to Colombia. I mean, I could have done that, but I was just like, it didn't feel right, so I wanted to take that jump.
One thing which Gisela and I often talk about is that gut feeling, right? And she and I were watching a documentary called Inside, and the lady who created it, she had her dream job. She's from Iceland, and she had her dream job with the UN, and she termed it her dream job. And I know I keep on emphasizing dream job because she got burnt out. And then she was like, oh, I resigned. So that ultimate dream job that she had, or that she thought that she was her dream job, was what was taking away from her spirit. And the experiences that she had, she felt that her emotions weren't in it. She was so removed and desensitized. So when you talk about feeling and that intuition, we have to hold it in high regard.
It's huge. If we let that guide us, that feeling of rightness.
And it starts in the gut as well, doesn't it?
It starts right here in the gut, exactly. If we let that guide us, we'll always be okay.
So it's not just that any disease starts there, or even though you don't like the word disease, but it could be that feeling. And I would say that if we break up the word disease, it's really that feeling of not being easy, right? The dis-ease
exactly.
of the situation.
You break down the word always.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, I'm just reading a book on the way over here. It's called The Plant Paradox. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it.
Yes.
Incredible
What's it
book.
about?
Yeah, it's just about how, you know, eating the right foods is so important, but eating healthy foods is detrimental. What we call healthy foods nowadays is actually a little bit detrimental to a lot of people, and just more education.
So what do you think, what is the definition of healthy food as per the plant paradox?
So as per the plant paradox, and the food, spoiler alert, by the way, because this is the whole book.
We'll still read it.
We'll still read it, good. It's a great book. But basically lectins are proteins that are produced by plants to deter humans and other organisms from eating them. And yet they're found in so many foods that are propagated to be healthy that we just eat the foods, get the symptoms, cover them up with medication. And what he's saying is so many diseases could be cured if we just didn't eat those foods. And so these are things like chia seeds. These are things like legumes. These are
Look on our face.
These things. Yeah, I know. And that was my face too. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? It makes a lot of sense though if you go into the history of the book. These are all relatively new foods that our bodies never adapted to eat. Within 10,000 years is the discovery, and we've been around for millions, right? So, relatively new foods in our system, our biology is not usually equipped to deal with it. And a lot of these foods we know contribute to autoimmune conditions, like things called nightshades, which are tomatoes and eggplants and peppers. These kind of potatoes can do a lot of harm for someone who has a sensitivity to them.
Yeah.
So that's the premise of the book. But what I wanted to get at was that he was saying that there's this one nerve. It's a very big nerve. It's called the vagus nerve, and it's connected, and it's basically connects our whole body to our brain, all the organs. And he's saying that it has 9 times more connections to our gut than any other organ, and that actually it's used as a communication pathway for our gut up to our brain, so that our gut can tell our brain what to do. We have more neurons in our gut than we do in our spinal cord. So it really is a second brain, and it really is kind of that gut feeling. It's actually a lot of truth to that.
There truly is, so listen to it.
Definitely.
But in my own personal research is, about the human intelligence and the body speaking to us. And neurology is, of course, one aspect of it, but it's just been the brain that's really been studied. But if and when we start to study the heart, it has more neurological connections than the brain does. So the saying, follow your heart, it knows the way. And then going further down into our body is the gut area. And if we think of how long our intestines are, like there's a lot of information there, right? That we could definitely benefit from.
Yeah.
So definitely listen to our body. I don't know if you've read the book, The Biology of Belief.
Bruce Lipton.
Yes, Bruce Lipton. Because he talks about all of our cells having intelligence and how we can actually program ourselves, right? And so that way we can self-heal or have that body condition or health condition that is optimum for us.
Exactly. Right. I love Bruce Lipton, and I wish I'd met him in person, but it's just incredible the work he's doing. And that's exactly right. Our body and cells can understand our thoughts.
Yes.
Right? And that's what he says, is the receptors, and the most important part of the cell is not the nucleus, it's the receptors. So be careful what we think, because those turn into cells. They really do. And it's so profound. So exactly. Yes.
Such a pleasure having you here with us today, hasn't it been, Gisela? And I can't believe how the time has flown. It feels like we just sat down.
Yeah.
It is crazy indeed.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Thank you for the benefit of your wisdom and your knowledge. And we will have all of Andrew's contact information on our Facebook page. Do you mind people getting in touch with you?
Please,
He's like, please do.
I'd love to answer any questions, and if they want to add me on Facebook, they can go ahead too. And I'm always doing Facebook Lives and everything to help educate everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Providing a true service to each and every person out there. So thank you again.
Thank you. It's been a blessing.
So Gisela, what have we taken away? A few books to read and yes.
Definitely. And I love the fact that you said that when you were driving, you're actually listening to different audiobooks. It seems like you truly are a life student. And I always say that, we are evolving beings. So although maybe 5 years ago you were on that path, now with the information that you do have, you do see where you want to go and how you can actually contribute to this world and how to serve everybody else. So it's incredible for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Gisela, for accepting my invitation and being my
honor.
co-host today, and for your contributions to the conversation and to each and every one of you out there. We will be back with you next week. Stay tuned. I'm not going to reveal the guest as of yet. You'll just have to stay tuned. So until then, goodbye and God bless.